Drew, I want to say this right off the top. Strange Advance, one of my all-time favorite bands from the 80s. Reason why? We Run. I have the 12-inch long version of it. I still play it to this day. Anytime I have a new unit or whatever to play music, that has to be on my playlist, but it has to be the long version of it. It
Right, right.
is an amazing song. I love the video. Like honestly, if when I make an 80's top 10 or whatever, that song is on that list. I am so thrilled to have a chance to talk to you because I'm finally going to understand exactly what the lyrics in the song is completely all about. I got to say thank you so much for this interview. Thank you for that song and the music and the great memories, my friend. And we're also going to talk about new music.
Awesome, awesome. Well, that's very nice to hear. Thank you very much.
I mean, when you think about the legacy of Strange Advance and knowing that your music has resonated throughout all this time, what do you think about it? You know, guys getting together, Vancouver back in the day to today. Did you ever think that your music would still resonate the way it has?
No, I never gave it much thought, to be honest, but it's remarkable. It's been decades, and I still get emails from people and people reaching out all the time to tell me, how much they love the music and how much they want to see us and stuff. So that sort of kept the thought alive in my head, and yeah, it's amazing. It really is.
It, I feel privileged growing up during that era.
Yeah.
I had my Camaro, T-bar. So to be able to in Toronto, and people don't understand what Toronto was like back then. It was a very cool time when it came to music, people, because your music, the Canadian 80's music, really brought people together when at clubs and whatever. I mean, people talk about now how people are separating, you have all these things. Back then, it wasn't like that. And a lot of it had to do with the music guys like you created.
Well, that's true. And of course, we were pre-internet. So I can actually remember being in the studio working on We Run with David Tickle. And he went on to mix Prince and do all sorts of wonderful things. And he had his little Radio Shack computer, and he was attaching something to the phone. I'm going, what are you doing? Well, he was sending an email to his dad in England. And it's like, what is this email thing you talk of? And yeah, so it's pretty remarkable how far technology has come since then. But back then, you're right, it was unified. People listened to the same radio station, and everyone got behind certain things, certain movements, whatever. And now, of course, everything is fractured and splintered, and it's just the way it goes, I guess.
It's sad. Before we get into the new music, and congratulations on that, and the old school music, let's really start talk about how you guys got together. How did that happen?
Well, after high school, I met Daryl, and I put an ad in the paper. He answered, which would never have happened now. And yeah, I mean, there weren't that many people, many ways to connect with people back then. It really was. It came down to an ad in the paper, or put up a little sign in the music store or something. That was about it. And we both loved David Bowie. That was our common ground. And so we actually formed a band, a Slan, and went out and played the clubs and stuff. And we were just doing all our favorite British acts, because we were so into Bowie and T-Rex and Mott the Hoople, all those people, and early Genesis and stuff like that. And so we did that for a few years, and then we started writing songs, and I was always into recording. I always had a 4-track or an 8-track, or eventually a 16-track, and so we would record our demos, and I made a couple of trips to Los Angeles to try to shop them, and rejected by everybody, and typical stories. And then finally, Daryl was asked. He was playing in a band at the time. I actually opened up a recording studio, and Daryl had a band called Remote Control, and they went out on the road as Bryan Adams, sort of his band on his very first tour across Canada, and Daryl played our demo tape for Bryan, and Bryan really liked it and said, would you mind if I pass this on to somebody? Then he gave it to Bruce Fairburn, the producer.
Yeah.
And Bruce loved it, and the next thing you know, we got a record deal.
Amazing.
Yeah.
It first off, when the hits started coming in, did people think that you were a British band, not a Canadian band?
Oh yeah, we got that all the time. People were just shocked. As a matter of fact, Global TV did a piece on us a while ago, and one of the hosts is going, "We Run is a Vancouver band?" It's like, I always thought they were from the UK. It's like, after all this time, people still have that idea about us.
What was it like for that? And I use the term so respectfully, transformation. When I say that is because we were so used to, from the 60s and 70s, when we talked about Canadian music, it was the Gordon Lightfoots, it was the Guess Who, artists like that. Of course, mad respect to all of them. But we had that certain type of image.
Yeah.
Video came in. 80's were slowly coming in. And then suddenly we had these bands like yourself, Platinum Blonde. You had artists like Corey Hart. So many acts where people were looking at them and going, as you just said, they're Canadian. What was that like to be part of that transformation in taking Canadian music worldwide from what we heard and what we saw visually through music videos and, of course, the birth of MTV and Much Music?
Well, for instance, you're wearing a Duran Duran shirt, and those guys, they rocked the video world. They knew what was going on, and so I mean, we were one of the first bands on MTV, for instance, in the States. We were actually signed to Capitol Records in Los Angeles, and when MTV came out, that just blew everything right up. And so all of a sudden we had a direction to go in, visually and stuff. And so yeah, it was a remarkable time period. And you're right, your Gordon Lightfoots and all those people. We kind of came from that, like Neil Young, Joni Mitchell, more of a folky kind of a background or whatever. And I guess I have to point to the UK. That was like sort of where it all began. And it spread out throughout the world. And of course, Canadians have always been close to the UK, so we were aware of what was going on over there. And the 80's were a magical time. At the time, I wasn't really thrilled with it. It's only in later years I look back and go, man, so much great music was produced then, really remarkable. So, yeah, and I feel lucky that, to be alive during that time period and see all these fantastic musicians and writers and stuff come out. Yeah, it's great.
Do you remember performing in Toronto? And if you do, where was the venue that you performed at?
Well, of course I remember, because we had not, first of all, we recorded the first album and had some success. And, but, unfortunately, we were all set to tour. But then Daryl's father passed away. So we pulled the plug on the tour and went to work on our second album. So by the time we did the second album, we were ready to headline, but we'd never played a date before, so it was an odd situation. Never played a single date until we got to Ontario, and we played two universities, maybe like Waterloo and something else. I can't even remember. So we had two warm-up dates, and then the next night we were at Ontario Place, the Forum, and it was like, oh my God. All of a sudden, you're surrounded by 10, 12,000 people, all there to see you. And to be honest with you, I wasn't looking forward to it because I was a drummer. That's how I started. And So this is the first time in my life I'd ever actually had to play a keyboard and sing. And I was like, oh, this is going to be terrible. This is a disaster in the making. But everything went smoothly. I really enjoyed it. And the Forum, what a wonderful place to sort of debut, you know?
I miss the Forum so much. For the young folks who are watching this, the Forum is basically where the Budweiser stage is now, but it was a stage that rotated slowly around. So it didn't matter where you sat, you got to see the band in front. Oh, I
Yeah,
loved
yeah,
going there back in the day.
yeah. And so many great acts performed there. It was really awesome. As a matter of fact, Images in Vogue opened for us, and now we're coming back to Toronto in May, and our first night in Toronto is at the Elmo, and Images in Vogue once again are opening for us. So that's pretty cool.
I'm there. I'm there.
Yeah.
I'm there. I'm there. Okay, let's get to We Run.
Hmm.
Who came up with the idea for this song, and what exactly? Oh my God, I can't believe this. I'm actually getting the chance to ask. What is the song actually about?
Well, yeah, you can ask whether or not I'm going to tell you.
Oh,
You know something? It actually came from a dream. I mean, it literally was, and I guess sort of more of a nightmare than anything. Um, I had a dream where I was on the side of a hill, looking down into a harbor where there were boats, and there was like a big military ship there, and I was close enough that I could see bodies lying on the deck of the boat. Yeah, frozen smiles for men returned. They never even left this place. You know, they didn't even get to take their ship out into the sea, and it's all to do with radiation is what you're on your own and meet a friend who doesn't kill but wounds for life. I'm talking about radiation coming down, and the after effects of a nuclear bomb and stuff. So it's a pretty depressing kind of material. And there was a girl, and I was sort of cradling her because she had been affected by it, and a shadow cut across her face. Well, that was like the metaphor of her dying in my arms. Anyway, it was like a lot of Strange Advance songs. It's got a really great feel, and it's pretty positive and upbeat until you actually scratch a little deeper, and you find out what the lyrics are actually referring to. So, and sometimes I don't like to tell people what songs are about, because everybody comes up with their own explanation or what it means to them, and that's great. I've got no problem people coming up and telling me how, oh, this song, man, Worlds Away, that was like about divorce. It's like, it was. It's like, okay, sure, whatever. But yeah, so people draw their own conclusions, and I'm just happy to let them do that.
that song to me is almost like poetry.
Mm.
Whenever I think about, and it's funny because you know how sometimes songs you listen to and you think you're singing the lyrics, and then you read it and you find out you're singing the wrong ones and whatever.
Oh yeah.
That song has done that to me in so many different ways. But I know the line, of course, that always sticks in my head is, "I run for miles and miles to the sea."
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
What does that part mean?
Well, I ran for miles and miles to the sea. We burned the fire from the sun. That's like a line that got taken out of the single, but was in the long version that you like. And yeah, yeah, it was, well, basically, you're running away from disaster is what's happening. Yeah.
Okay. Oh man, who came up with the video idea? Because as we talked about Duran Duran having great videos, I put that video right up to anything that they've done also.
I'm going to say the creative from that came from, I think, was it Rob Quarterly who directed that? I'm not sure.
I
I'm
don't
not
know.
sure. I think it might have been, but yeah, definitely. And that's something that at the time, of course, you're making a record, you're promoting the record, and they need a video or two. So and we had no time to give it any thought. Unlike Duran Duran, who had a direct hand in a lot of their visuals, you know, and Images in Vogue as well. You know, I mean, it's in the name. They were definitely aware of their image and promoting what they wanted, you know, the people to see. And we just didn't really think visually at that point in time, you know, and we weren't interested in doing videos, you know. I mean, we had to, but you know, we just went where the record company told us and did what the video director, you know, directed, and that was about it. So, you know, I have to say all credit to I believe Rob Quarterly. Yeah.
You guys were nominated for, I think, once or twice, Juno Award.
Yeah, the first time for I guess
I think it was Best New Artist. Promising, yes.
New artist, yeah. And we really did not want to win that one because so many acts have won that and just disappeared off the face of the earth. So we didn't want that one. And then the next time we were nominated, it was like 2 years later. Now we're nominated for Best Group. And I got to tell you, we're like, well, that's not happening, you know, because we're up against like Rush and whoever else, I don't know. And so it was one of those situations where, oh, I'm just going to have fun. You know, I show up to the ceremony and this is great. You know, I don't have to worry about anything, I know. And then the next thing you know, of course, now I understand the process. But at the time, I was like, I'm sitting there just enjoying myself. And then all of a sudden, there's a cameraman pointing a camera at me. It's like, oh, what's this guy doing? It's like, oh no, oh shit, you know, we might win this thing. Oh no. But the whole time I'm thinking, I've got nothing I haven't planned anything to say, nothing. And you know how you see people go up on stage, it's like, what a shock. And then they pull out 17 pages of, you know, thank you notes or whatever. I did not have a single thought in my brain. So I'm just sitting there going, please don't let us win. Please don't let us win. Please don't let us win. I thought I've got to be the only guy in history who's like praying not to win, you know. But anyway, it was fun.
Oh, what was it like though to when you think about it now, to see so many great 80s Canadian legendary acts around you? When you think about it now, what is that like for you? I mean, for me, now getting, you know, for the last couple of years, like Corey Hart and I are good friends. I would never have thought that in a million years back then, you know.
Yeah, yeah.
And, you know, getting a chance to speak to you and so many other great acts too. What was it like for you when you think about it now, looking around and seeing the legends of the 80s?
Well, you know, I was impressed. I maybe I'm easily impressed. I don't know, but I, you know, especially, you know, hanging out at the Junos where it's like, oh, famous person after famous person and, you know, a huge success and all that. And, you know, going back to when we first got signed, I mean, it took like about a year, maybe 2 years before I accepted that, you know, we got a record deal. We're valid. We're worthwhile. Because like when it happened, it was going, oh no, there's been a mistake. They signed the wrong band by mistake. You know, this is not going to happen. Someone's going to realize, oh shit, no, that's not who I meant to sign. So like the imposter syndrome, you know, and so it took a while for us to like settle into it and we've always been happy just doing our own thing. You know, I mean, I like to think that, you know, you can't draw too many straight comparisons between us and other bands. And we were just, you know, we were trying to be ourselves, be original and whatever. So, and just be happy doing that. And, but yeah, I mean, I was just as impressed as you would have been, you know, looking around and it's like, oh my God, I can actually remember, you know, meeting Corey Hart. It's like, I'm shaking Corey Hart's hand. Wow, this is unbelievable.
I was going to ask, have you heard your music in any soundtracks, like movie soundtracks or commercials or anything?
Oh, yeah, for sure. As a matter of fact, this is a weird story. There were a couple of TV series that used Worlds Away. And I...
Was it Night Heat?
Night Heat. No,
yeah.
No. I don't recall that title. But anyway, there was a couple of series, and and the second time I found out that it was the same guy that was using Worlds Away in his new series. It's like, and I was talking to a buddy of mine in Calgary, and he says, well, you know, that's my brother, right? It's like, what? He's got a different name altogether, but he moved to LA and was partnered up with JJ Abrams, and I'm thinking, oh great, you know, keep it rolling, you know, this is awesome. But yeah, for sure. I get maybe, you know, a couple times a year somebody requests to use She Controls Me or Worlds Away or We Run or whatever in a TV show or a movie. Yeah,
I
pretty
always
cool.
wished We Run was used in Miami Vice. I always
Ah,
thought that that would have, because they used Sunglasses at Night on Miami Vice of Corey Hart, and I always
right.
thought if there was another Canadian track, you know, I would thought Brian Adams or you guys that they would use, but didn't
Well,
happen.
well, now
But
this is your calling. You know, you start making movies and use our songs. Go for it.
oh, I would love to do that definitely. When the music world started to change and videos weren't as prominent, how did the band change and how did you guys basically, you know, deal with as time changes, as we all change, to coming back and saying, hey, the fans have been asking, it's time for us to have new music.
Yeah, well, of course, remember that, you know, back then we didn't have Facebook or anything like that, and so I wasn't really aware of what fans were, you know, were saying or thinking or whatever. And at the end of the '80s, you know, after the third album, Daryl and I were just exhausted. You know, it's we'd spent a long time working on the record. You know, we did for us a lot of touring. For a regular band, it would have been nothing, but we weren't, you know, a big touring act. So, you know, we took a break. You know, and we just took a break, and and time just went on. You know, and of course, styles had changed.
Yeah.
You know, when we took our break, we had to like do battle with the record company at the time to get out of doing the next album. We didn't, you know, we didn't want to do it at that point in time. And so we ended up, you know, battling them to try to, you know, resist the, you know, making of a new album. And then in that time period, of course, everything blew up. You know, the Seattle scene and stuff, and all of a sudden, and I had a friend from Toronto. It's one of my favorite stories. I won't go into too much detail, but just to say, it was like they were like a hair band, you know, and they were like huge. You know, like they got a big record deal in the States, big publishing deal, and and they released a single, and they had everything going for them, you know, and the single was up for like, you know, 3 days or something, and the record label dropped them, and they're just like in shock. You know, it's like, what? You've spent all this money promoting us, doing all this, but the record company, no, the writing's on the wall. You're toast. No one's going to buy your record. You know, no one's going to watch your video because, you know, the whole thing had become so, you know, well, grunge and all that stuff had happened, and you guys are the past. You know, so it happened so quickly. And you know, Daryl and I have talked about it many times. It's like, oh, we should have kept going. It's like, I don't think it would have worked. You know, I really don't. Um, you know, like the indie scene wasn't really, you know, set up to the point it is now,
Yeah.
where you can actually do stuff independently and survive because we have access to the fans now. You know, somebody set up a Facebook fan page for us years ago, and I just ignored it. I knew of it, but I didn't go to it or visit it. I had no idea that, you know, so many people were saying such nice things like you know, about We Run and stuff. So finally, when I tapped into that, it was like, oh, I can actually talk to the fans, and they're asking questions, and I can answer them, and it sort of rekindled the relationship between us and the fans. So, and of course, you know, the fans want to hear more music, and they want to see us live, and all that kind of stuff. So, you know, it was like a rebirth for us.
New music. What's going on with new music right now, sir?
Well, it's an interesting situation because like I write constantly. As a matter of fact, people ask me what I'm listening to these days and stuff, and I got to be honest, I'm not listening to anything. I don't listen to music. I've always got a song in my head. I've always got something, ruminating in there, and so I'm just focused on that, and it's been that way for the last 30 years. So as you can imagine, over 30 years, you save up a lot of songs. So so yeah, but here's the issue. Like this new Strange Advance CD, Strange Advance 4, I would say is a really good compilation of Strange Advancey kind of material.
Mhm.
Uh, but I write a lot of different styles of music and stuff, and a lot of what I do is like doesn't sound like Strange Advance, so that's not going on the record. And so for me, it's just I get a lot of personal pleasure out of writing. So it doesn't matter if the song gets released or whatever. But I was actually somebody yesterday was saying, "Oh, I was listening to your demos." I forgot. I've even forgotten that I'd done that on our website. I just thought, okay, I'm going to start putting down like occasional songs that maybe I'll never finish, or nothing's going to happen to them, but they still deserve to be heard or whatever. So I thought this is a great opportunity. It's a means for me to let them see the light of day and have a little bit of enjoyment being heard by people and stuff. And so yeah, the new music is oh, I don't know. I guess I have a Strange Advancey kind of mind for the most part. You know what I mean? That stuff comes naturally to me. Daryl kind of went off in a different direction. He loves dance music, and that's what he's most interested in doing. And but for me, I've got like a very big soft spot for Strange Advance and the old material and the new Strange Advancey kind of material. So yeah, there'll definitely be more of that coming. Although it's a lot of work to put out a CD, to put all that together. It's like, because like when I work on my own, I don't feel the need to polish it and finish it and whatever, because it's probably never going to be heard by anybody. So, but when you're putting out a CD, you want to make sure everything's right, and that takes a big effort. I will say this though, one neat thing that happened last year was the Spoons asked us to contribute a song to their was it Echoes? Is that?
Yeah, I talked to them about that.
Yeah.
No. I interview the Spoons as many times as possible. They told me about this.
Yeah. So that was like a lot of fun, a lot of fun. Nova Heart, we did a cover of that, and it's such a great track, a great song. And you talk of the 80s and good music, and that was one of the high points of Canadian 80s music, so it was a thrill getting to revisit that. So that was a lot of fun too.
Somebody's got to get smart and basically do something like maybe at the Budweiser stage and just do an all day festival and just bring everybody back. And because I'm telling you something, it would be amazing. Because like I said, I can now, like I drive an Equinox, but I'm happy with it. I can play We Run and turn it up. I don't care if they're my age or they're a kid. Somebody's going to turn around and they're going to start bopping to that song.
Yeah.
80s music resonates to this day, and you guys are the architect for that.
Well, thank you very much. It's very kind of you.
Going back again, when is the show going to be happening at the Elmo Combo?
May the 13th. Sadly, I believe it's sold out. So
I'm hosting at the Elmo Combo on Tuesdays.
Well, there you go.
Yes.
You'll be there.
I could get myself in there, not a problem. And I do believe that's the same week of Juno week too. So,
yeah. I wasn't aware of that at the time, but yeah, that's pretty cool.
Talk about timing on that. Look, I gotta say, thank you so much for this interview. Thank you for explaining the song. But more importantly, thank you for such a great time. I mean, geez, I miss those days. It's funny. I could sit there and I can say, I had, this bad experience, or, this girl broke my heart or whatever else. But in an overall sense, I had an amazing time. And one of the biggest reasons was fashion
Hmm.
and music.
Hmm. Hmm.
And you guys provided the music, and in your videos provided the fashion. So thank you, thank you, thank you so much for probably one of the greatest times in my life.
Well, it was my pleasure, believe me.